Watching Stephen Cummings on noise11.com.
We welcome into noise11.com Stephen Cummings, a man who has spent the last 40 years playing around Melbourne. You know, you're an essential part of the Melbourne scene over a long period of time, and you're right at the very start of some very interesting things happening in Melbourne, Stephen, which has been documented in this compilation, Carlton, which dates right back pre-sports into your very first band with the Pelaco Brothers.
Yeah, it does. Early Melbourne.
It wasn't. I guess there's not a lot of musical documentation of the Pelaco Brothers, so it was interesting to get to hear this come out.
It's good, eh?
Yeah.
No, I could say how good we were.
It was an interesting band, wasn't it? Because it was sort of like the precursor to the Sports and Jojo Zepp and the Falcons.
Yeah, it was sort of fun. It was a well, you know, it was an inner city art sort of alternative living sort of band. You know, it was sort of pretty wacky. We made fun of a lot of things. And then Joe joined because he wanted to join. And then we sort of improved a fair bit after he joined it. And then, you know, a group broke up. There was nothing really much to the Pelaco Brothers. We just sort of played. We did some interesting things like played Pentridge about 3 times, and we went round when the Labor government came in and played at factories every lunch hour. Poor workers hadn't suffered enough to hear us playing oddball country and western songs and stuff like that.
Yeah. In the liner notes, Johnny Topper talks about you coming out of the theatre scene. What exactly were you doing at that point?
The group or me?
He said, "Well, yeah." His actual quote was that Stephen Cummings was part of the theatre scene when he joined the band.
No, I liked Topper and Peter and Lily, and met them, and we started the group like that. Also, like I went to film school at Swinburne with Greg McCage. He was like in the class, and so I used to do the lights for his band, which was called Frame, pre-Skyhooks. And at Eltham there was whole other sorts of scenes around. There was sort of the big sort of pot smoking thing out at Eltham, and so they used to have big sort of super shows and stuff out there, which we played at, and I can remember getting Skyhooks together, and you know, I thought this will never work. It's, you know, it's like David Bowie's pin-ups or something. It's sort of like, there you go, how wrong I've been.
Well, you were basically witnessing the birth of Skyhooks.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. I saw and then their original singer Steve Hill worked for Jojo Zepp, and also took us and the Pelaco Brothers on our first tour down to Portland. Places like that, where I met this guy Laurie Richards, who then came back to Melbourne and started all his gigs.
Oh, right.
The you know, ballroom and I can't remember, but about 30 gigs, Bananas, all these other kind of Melbourne iconic.
One of the things Dave Lang, who put the compilation together, talks about in his liner notes, part of the Carlton compilations. He talks about the Pelaco Brothers being the birth to the roots music scene that is still vibrant to this day.
Yeah, that's true, because no one else was doing anything like that, or truck, you know, lots of truck driving songs, and we sort of dressed completely differently to everyone else. We sort of, you know, wearing boots, high boots, and sort of 40s clothes and other kind of crap like that. So you know, we were the first ones doing that sort of thing. But, yeah, it wasn't really like serious. It was like the group started because Topper and I was trying to start a magazine and we couldn't raise the money. And then we had about $200. So we went down to Russell Street and he bought a bass and I bought a guitar. And that was sort of started me into it, you know.
Yeah, it was a very short-lived era, wasn't it? How much?
Yeah, it was very short. Yeah,
How much recorded material of the Pelaco Brothers exists?
just like a result of probably 2 3-hour recordings. That was it.
There was sort of a stopgap in between Pelaco's ending and Sports starting. You and Dave Fleet got together. And I guess,
Fleet.
Yeah, and that became sort of something that went into the Sports and then went into Jojo Zepp and then went into Captain Matchbox.
Yes.
Jim Conway was involved in that as well, too.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's well, it was kind of like that. It was a bit more. It was like Joe and Bob Starkey's brother Peter Starkey and Dave Flett. They all had band together before any of these groups because they're sort of older, and they had a group and they backed a stripper duty. Doing all the mining towns up and down Western Australia. And so they were together and they came. Peter Starkey was the first guitar player in Skyhooks, and then he couldn't stand the whole thing of dressing up. So he left and they got Red in it. Bongo and Shirley, who was the original singer from Greg's other Eltham group, Frame. But yeah, and then Dave, after that, when that happened, Dave Flett became, went to Matchbox and he played bass with them and was a very sort of funny guy. So, yeah, and then Dave came back and he sort of kind of he did some tracks with me and some tracks with Mark Gillespie. And then he sort of retired and became sort of like the main builder of studios in Melbourne or whatever, Australia.
I guess you were collecting a catalogue of songs in those pre-sports bands, and some of those songs actually made their way all the way through to the Sports, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, I can't say there's anything, I wasn't thinking about a catalogue of songs, that's for sure. You just sort of like did more songs because you got bored and, you know, I lived doing the Sports in Melbourne above a shop. At the back of the shop I had a garage that was a big set of stables. So we just set up there and like recorded, not recorded, we rehearsed every day, like for hours.
The very first time I ever heard of the Sports or saw the Sports was on Countdown.
Yeah.
Boys, what did the detective say? And, here we have a national Australian pop show, and on comes this new wave punk alternative band out of Melbourne.
Yeah.
You really stood out on that show, didn't you? Because, a lot of the other acts around you were pop.
Yeah, they were more like Sherbet and stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that was really, it was really boring to do at Carlton. Well, because you just have to sit around for hours and wait for JPY to turn up, because they always got the better times. Later in the day, so I had to spend, but we'd have to get there like at 9 a.m. or something.
Well, you had, I guess, if I look at the bonus discs for the albums, a lot of Night Moves performances in there that have been released now on the reissues.
Yep.
And I guess the Sports were more of a Night Moves band than a Countdown band, weren't you?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. But also you get, also there was a connection between Night Moves and Michael Kinski, I think. And, but there was we were always doing, there's a lot of concerts from Sydney with radio stations and all sorts of stuff that hasn't I haven't got it, but I know it exists. But yeah, it's sort of, it's interesting. Look, I find the whole thing sort of only interesting in the fact that I've been able to have a slack lifestyle for this amount of time and get to do different things I wanted to do, and so
you've really had a full circle with the career. I mean, you're still working in some ways with Joe Camilleri's Head Records. So Joe, who you started off working with all those years ago in the Pelaco Brothers, is still very much part of your career.
Yeah, in a fashion.
He's the record label guy.
Yeah, he is. He's the most important thing about, like, I don't think all of the Carlton records are all great or anything like that. But what's interesting is that period, why it was memorable, is that you could write a song that day and people would go out to a pub and see you play it, a song that you'd written that day, and they'd look forward to that aspect of it, as opposed to like now, when I might drive across town and see a Doors show, an INXS show, or so, whatever, Led Zeppelin, which is it's quite that hasn't really happened again.
Well, that was an era, wasn't it?
Kind of, really. It was like, that's what I think the main thing is. It was like, and most of the groups they're just like a representative of all these strains that were kind of like popular at that time, or
Why won't you do another sports show?
Oh, well, Piano Player's dead, and it's just left it sort of too long. I wouldn't mind it. We almost did it actually about a year ago, when this record was first going to come out, and our very first manager, this guy John Lever, who we sacked, said, "Why don't we do? I've just seen that Paul Kelly film, and it'd be really great if we could do one more show. And you don't have to do a whole tour, just do one." And then I said, "Oh, well, if I don't have to know anything about it, just turn up when and have a couple of rehearsals, whatever, that's fine." But of course, he didn't do it. And I thought, well, I found that the mainstream of Australian music has never been very can see things through. Things happen just despite anything.
Yeah, but you get out and...
I know, I just couldn't look. If anyone would want to, no one's tried to really organise it. So
you're open to it?
Oh, well, no, Jimmy Niven's dead now. I would have done a few as I know, one stage, yes. So I was going to say we were going to do it with just Martin, Andrew Pendlebury, myself, and we're going to use the Rock Whiz Band, because the keyboard player lived with James Black for about 3 years. And so that would be easier for us, because I don't know how much the others have played. But, I wouldn't mind. I could just do it with the original people, but I can also not do it. And then Martin's been very sick as well. And he's got a sort of job, right? I don't know if he still has, might have finished this year, doing the film and television school, running the music for it. Because there's quite a lot of television shows and soundtracks and crap like that. So, it's more like we stopped just because we felt like stopping. We didn't say we broke up or anything, we just stopped. And, just hasn't worked out that way.
So the sports never broke up then, you've just been on a 30-year hiatus.
That's right. And I think it's probably too long a thing now. So
come on, Daddy Cool have done it. Chisel have got back up there and got it one more time.
I think it makes us more unique being the only one who hasn't. It's like, no, I just don't think it's very interesting.
Well, if you do, I think a lot of people will be very interested in
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah, but anyway, look, no one's come to me so far, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Steve, it's a great story. It's fantastic getting these new sports records back out there again. Particularly, like, you know, if you've even got the old albums, just get them for the bonus tracks.
That's right.
That's pretty amazing stuff. Stephen Cummings, thank you for joining us here at
Thanks,
Noise
Paul.
11.